kicked off. So let's see. All right, everyone. So if you are new here, my name is Alexis. Yes, it is my birthday, so special treat. You get to see me with my hair straight. But I am a HubSpot certified trainer here on the Simple Strat team, and I help co-host all of our webinars that we have on our monthly basis. This one you're joining in today is our Flywheel Fuel series. Today we are diving into websites and really creating that marketing machine. But in general, our Flywheel Fuel series is designed to help you kind of build awareness, generate leads, and create the fuel that you need to power your marketing, sales, and service goals. So be sure to stay connected with us so you can be sure to check out our future ones. For today, like I said, we're diving into transforming your website into a marketing machine. So you will learn 15 ways that your current website is potentially costing you leads and replacing that with some new B2B strategies that you should be using to engage your inbound leads and empower your sales team. If you don't know much about Simple Strat, we are a HubSpot solutions partner. So we are here to lend you our expertise, whether you need help purchasing or upgrading HubSpot, fixing a messy portal, implementing strategies like the ones we're covering today, training your team. All of our HubSpot specialists are certified HubSpot trainers. So love to help you out with that, as well as just ongoing monthly support and marketing strategy as well. I will kick it on over to Allie, who will guide us all through everything we need to know about transforming our websites for marketing.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Alexis, and thanks everybody for joining us here today. So I told Alexis before we jumped in, today is going to feel like you're riding in a convertible with the top down and like the wind is just in your face. We are going to fly. Both Tyler and myself that host these webinars, we are not fans of boring webinars that feel like they could have been an email. So you are going to get a ton of content here in this next 60 minutes. And the goal here is to provide so much content that obviously you want to reach out and chat with us. So I'm going to put that out there preemptively because we have a couple of things in here that you may see. But before we jump in, I'm going to give you a little bit of a background and a sort of a history lesson, because I looked at the registration list for everyone who's here. There's a lot of different industries, a lot of different job titles. So you all may have different things coming into this call. So we're going to try and give you as much as you can to take back these little pieces to your current website strategy. And it might not be an entire redesign. I'm going to put out that like a website is a living, breathing thing, and we can make small changes as we move. So to take us back in time, I'm going to give you the year 2010. This was the year that the infamous meat dress, if you're not a Lady Gaga fan, like this was the year that everybody started going, what the heck is going on with this person? But it's also the year that we managed to get our first iPad. So what this means is we've had a lot of changes since then. But for me, the year 2010 was the year that I did my first huge website redesign. I was working for a company and I had been in my office and it felt like I'd had my door shut. Like we were in person back then, folks. And so I had my door shut and I was head down. Like if I couldn't find a picture of me, but literally if there was a picture of me, this was me. I was burned out. I'd hired people to help. I had writers, I had designers, I had developers, but it was just this exhaustive process to take an entire website and redo it. And at the time, I was a marketing manager, so it felt like this website has like this is my Michelangelo experience. This is my Sistine Chapel. It has to be amazing. And the reason I bring it up in this way is this has to be the thinking that we forget and we leave behind in the new environment. Yes, a website redesign is going to be a big overhaul, but it is not a like everything builds up and then you press go and then you're like, woohoo, I'm done for a while. That cannot be the thinking we have today. So here's what that cycle looks like in the past. We have the current website. It's about 3 to 5 years. And then we work on a redesign. And I'm going to say this 6 to 12 month redesign typically starts as like, we're going to kick this out in 2 months, and then it becomes 4 and then 6 and then 12. And then guys, sometimes we've brought on clients where they've been working on their website redesign for like 3 years. How much are you missing out on if this happens? But this was old thinking. So then we get a new website, same sort of thing. Woohoo, we celebrate. And then it's about 2 to 3 years. So think about this. I'm going to take you back again to 2010. If we can remember what 2010 was like, we can barely remember a world before AI. And guys, that was only like 18 months ago. So we're in this world now where our site has to continue to change and evolve and grow. So it's not just about the content, it's about consumer behavior. What's happening? How are people interacting with content? And we can't we really can't take a 6 to 12 design months to redesign something. And the reason I bring it up in this way is this is now what we need to operate in is that we have to have this steady growth upward. Yes, you're going to have redesigns and yes, you're going to have changes, but a website is both this process of what do people need to hear from us today in order to convert and become customers, but it's also what are we learning as we interact with our audience on a regular basis. And so there's kind of two components that it comes down is the content and then how easy it is to update. So what we're going to talk about here in today's webinar is not necessarily the how easy it is to update because we, as a full-fledged HubSpot agency, we do support building websites on HubSpot. So if you're looking at that, that's an option. But I'm going to say any website platform, how easy it is to quote unquote spin up a page, spin up a campaign, non-technical people to do things. That's going to be the crux of how well you can also execute your sales and marketing machine. So with that said, as the groundwork, I also want to bring for anybody who's an executive, this is kind of like bringing you into the mix. If you're a marketer, you might be like cheering, being like, woohoo, she gets me. But everybody on the left, like this is how the design is made. And if we're in an agency side, people think we just click a button, woohoo, it's done. Wix, they put out really good commercials about how you can build your own website. Have you ever watched a baking video online and you're like, wow, they make it look so easy, and then you try to do it? You guys, I even did HelloFresh for a while and I got the ingredients and I went and bought the ingredients at the store and it still sucks. So it's not as easy as people make it look, but I want us to get on the same page because when we're talking about things that are simple, they may be straightforward, but they're not necessarily easy. So for everyone on this call, whether you're a designer, a marketer, an executive, we all have to agree this is a process and there's multiple disciplines and talents and skills involved because if we think it's just design, it's not just design. All right. So website design is really more about these things. So what is the path that your prospecting customer takes to do things? And by things, this could mean a lot of different stuff, but I will tell you, if you're a service company, there are lots and lots and lots of articles out there about how to do your website and offer like free trials and product information. That's not the same thing as a service company. So be careful. You have to know the path the customers take. What customers and clients expect relative to the greater market. This one never ceases to amaze me. And that is when we have a conversation about website, and let's say that you're the person, I'm even guilty of this, you guys too, is, well, I would never go looking for that. You are not the target audience. And if you go look at your competitor's website, for example, we had a situation a couple weeks ago, we're talking about website strategy with a client, and they talked about how they offer a whatever their bottom of funnel offer was. Let's call it a book a call. All of their competitors offer demos, book a demo. So by not offering the same thing as a competition and you don't have a clear enough brand awareness to have that be like a kicker, you might actually be missing opportunities because they don't think you actually offer demos. So this is why competitive research is going to be super key. We'll go through that a little bit more here. How do they behave in making decisions and choices? If there's one thing that's changed and it continues to change in a huge way, it's people are overwhelmed. They actually don't need more information. They need help making choices. And when people need help making choices, they do a couple things. They go to the people they know and they go to the brands that they trust. So in addition to creating a website experience, we have to make it easy for them to make decisions and answer the questions that are in the back of their mind that they're not willing to tell you. So we'll talk about that here. And then how easy is the information to maintain? Again, I mentioned that just briefly here, but this is actually what an entire website is and development process is about. It's not about the pretty things. It's about making results through these things. And then how easy is it to make decisions? Because if you're not having any analytics, like if you don't know the path someone's taking through your site, it's going to be hard to update that. So the thinking I want you to adopt here is your website is your 24/7 salesperson. Now, in a B2B environment, that means that your salesperson might be like this at a trade show. Like they're out, they're talking, they're getting people interested, they're taking business cards, but they're not necessarily transacting the sale. In a B2C or a business to consumer environment, like if you're selling clothes or selling coffee or something, that might also then lead them to a sale. When we're talking about this again today, we're mostly going to be talking about a B2B perspective, and that is bringing people to and into sales conversations, but it's not taking them to the point where they're going to maybe say, yes, I want to buy this service exactly like this. So based on this question or based on this premise here, as your 24/7 salesperson, I'm going to have two questions for you. If this was true, would they hit their quota? So think about that for a second. And then number two, if your website was a salesperson, would you let them talk to customers? And the second one is the thing I want you to think about, because too often than not, I hear things like this. Don't go to our website. It doesn't really say what we do. Okay, so think about this for a second. Think about being out in a networking environment and like you have your sales team, like you've got your field marketing out, and they're saying all the wrong things to your prospective audience in person. Like, I mean, if you were a sales manager, you'd fly out there and be like, whoa, 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 guys, like we need to do some coaching. Like, what is going on here? Or you would just quite frankly say, you know what, you need to not talk to people. You need to go over here. And we're letting this happen every day online. Or picture it this way. If your website was a salesperson and someone asked a question and they just stand and stare blankly back at you, that would be super ineffective. But people ask things like, well, how much does it cost? And they can't find the answer. Or have you worked with someone like me? Where's the case studies? They can't answer. That's the role of your website today. And if that's not being taken into account, you are missing opportunities. And that's where we need an engine, or we need a machine. We're talking machines today. The second thing that's often overheard is I went to the site, but I didn't see any pricing. So I asked a friend. Now, we're going to talk about this at the end of the webinar, but the very premise of like, if they can't find information, it doesn't mean they give up. It just means they try to find it another way. So you're then running the risk of whatever they find. And then the third thing is, I went to your website, but I couldn't find X. The number of times someone has said, hey, I have a insert blank webinar series, podcast, YouTube, whatever, designed to do really good things to draw customers in, but you cannot find it to save your life on their website. So those are three things that are often overheard. Now, why is that? All right, we're going to get a little philosophical with you here. We're going to have to talk about thoughts, beliefs, and feelings, because here's the deal. We all know what we should do, but we're not doing it. Why is that? Well, if we think that our website is just a cost and I'm going to try and spend the least amount of money I can on it, I'm going to go looking for, you know what? It is. Our website's just a cost. And I'm going to create actions, or in this case, lack of inaction. I'm not going to do anything because it's just a cost. And then I have results that are evidence for my beliefs, which is like, yeah, it generated no leads. So websites don't work. And then you believe that because it's true and you keep going around and around and around. So if it's a cost, you've probably built that into your own belief system. If it's not as important as your field marketing, let's say again, like you've got boots on the ground, our website's not as important. Okay, your mindset's going to support that. If you adopt the mindset again of our website is a salesperson and holy heck, how do I make sure that this person is performing? Your mindset will naturally go, oh, ugh, that's not working. What do I need to do to change that? And then how do I create results that are evidence of those beliefs? If you can just get 10 more newsletter signups a month, that is one result that is evidence of people wanting to take action. Right now, there's things that are limiting that. And then, if it's just a brochure, again, that's going to create your mindset. So every single webinar you've ever been to, if we talk about developing your leadership skills or developing your profit centers in your business, everything comes down to how you go into it with your mindset. So philosophical part over, but that has to be said. Otherwise, everything else we talk about on this webinar isn't going to be true. All right, so here's where we're headed. Again, we are a quick masterclass, so we're flying. So we're going to talk about what is a machine, because that's the premise of what we talked about in the title. The website mistakes that Alexis alluded to. How do you set goals for your website? What are the common elements that you need? And then a speed round. If we're not already speedy enough, we're going to talk about 5 practical tips that you should, again, if you zone out and do nothing else, last 10 minutes, better pay attention. All right, so what is a machine anyway? All right, so I think we need to do a quick history lesson, actually in this case, a science lesson, because a machine is not an engine. And I think there's 2 types of machines, but Britannica here, for those of you that never had encyclopedias, I remember checking them out. These are the things that they define as machines. So you have your inclined plane, your wedge, your lever. Not important that you know these things, but these simple machines are the things that make it possible for us to do more work with less effort. So what we're talking about in the scope of today's call or today's webinar is how to do more with your website with less effort. You need to put some effort in the beginning to build the machine, but then over time, you should be able to then have it do the work for you. Now, the reason I bring it up in that way is many people think of their website as a complex machine. And again, thanks to this, you can tell that I Had to dig into my husband's teaching files because I don't know anything like I don't draw things like this. But this on the right hand side is a complex machine. So when you have a car, that's what people think about. Like, I want my website to drive and do all the things for me. But you know what? You haven't even built the simple machines that makes it possible to generate the energy we need to power a car. So I'm going to go back here 2 screens and say, you know what? You might need a lever, which a lever would be an example of a content offer that gets someone like into the mix, and then you need to figure out how to nurture them. Again, I put this up here as a very much, I believe that most of you on the call have taken a look at a lot of websites that registered for this webinar, and a lot of you need some very simple machines to make your website work harder. So I want you thinking about those machines as we come into our in our time here. So key question in each one of these sections: what simple machines do you need? So think about this: are you not getting enough qualified leads? Is it even clear on how to schedule a call? The number of websites that the call to action is contact us. Okay, great. Contact us for what? Again, that needs to be clear. You're not getting enough signups for the newsletter. Well, first of all, can they find it? Like, this is actually a pretty common problem. And two, when you get to the sign up box, literally everyone I go to that's struggling says, sign up for our newsletter. Okay, what do I get? How often am I going to? What people don't want is they don't want to be surprised. Now, are you not getting the right clients? Your messaging might be too vague. And then if you have deals ghost, you have case studies. So these are examples of things that might be roadblocks that a simple machine or an approach to that could fix that. So let's talk about the critical website mistakes. And before we jump into all 15 of these, real quick, we do have a free website audit. If you're interested in having us take a look and actually analyze against all the things we're talking about here today, or even like you get this and then you're able to take it to your boss and be like, see, I told you. Go ahead and shoot your camera at that QR code. We'll also put the link out at the end in the Q&A as well. So feel free to grab that. All right, so 15 critical mistakes. So number one, confusing or jargon heavy copy. And the way that you can measure this is, how do you talk to someone who's not in your industry? And is it something that you would say to, again, like a 5th grader, 6th grader? If not, you're probably going to be confusing your audience. Lack of a clear specific value proposition. And I pulled one example. These people are not clients. I don't know who they are, but they're a service company. They're an advertising agency. And this is a really good example of this company largely is driven by referral, changing hearts and minds and bottom lines. Okay. If you're going to be giving a lot of traffic, or if you're going to be bringing a lot of traffic to your site and you want your site to work harder, tell me who you are, what you do, and who you do it for. This is pretty vague. This might work for them, but again, we're here because you want to work harder. Number 3, no defined target audience. So by target audience, I mean who is coming to the site and should be attracted and who should be repelled. And at the worst, when the site is not targeted to anybody, but it's done because you like it. Now, let that sink in for a minute. There's too many times we make decisions in our marketing strategy based on what we would do or what we like or the graphics we want. And there's times, again, there's been a video on the homepage because the owner really, really, really likes video, but it slows it down and nobody, like, it's actually sacrificing performance. So I'm not saying that everything with video is wrong. What I'm saying is, when you're coming up with your strategy, it needs to be for that researched audience, not for you. This is a good example of a website. Again, this is a software one, but they say it right there. Project time tracking software for teams. And then as you work through their homepage, it's going to tell you exactly who it is and then, how it works. Number 4, there's no clear path or journey through the site. When we get to the section where we're talking about specific strategy of how you can recapture some of that, we have to talk about the journey. And the journey is not homepage, click to service page, click to book a call. I would love it if that was the path everybody took. That's not the path. So you have to think about, what are all the paths that someone does take, and there has to be clarity. Otherwise, there's going to be confusion. I'm talking about features or stuff over the benefits. Everybody is in love with their features. This is a common challenge in just marketing in general, but a website mistake is when you're going to the site and it looks like you could just commoditize that in another website. That's not going to help your conversion rates. I guess I'm on 6 now. There's 15 at the end. Calls to action here, vague or too many. So did a website analysis last week and discovered that the one page that they were sending people to had 7 different calls to action. Now imagine going into a room and someone says, hey, can you go get something in the kitchen? And there's 7 doors. You have a 1 out of 7 chance to find the right door to get to the kitchen. But the goal is to get to the kitchen, right? So think about this. This is actually how this works on websites. So there's 2 things at play here. One is if you can't find the right door, you just leave. Like they know where the door out is, and that's called a bounce. But the second thing is we get frustrated when people don't take the actions that we want. And so we think we're just going to give them 7 different actions. Okay, you can have 7 different buttons on your page, but they all need to lead to the same place. So this is an example, and I'm showing you what to do. This is an example on our website. This is a page about how we build HubSpot websites. On the top is a free consultation. And then on this page, we have schedule a call about HubSpot websites. They both go to the same place. So contextually, if someone's ready on the left, if they're like, I don't know if I need a HubSpot website, but I'm talking about something else, they can book a free call. So that's an example. Lack of SEO best practices. This one's hard because I've been in conversations where someone will say, hey, I want to make sure that we are found on Google. Okay, well, first of all, the first thing you need to focus on is being found for your brand name. If you're not ranking #1 for your brand name, fire whoever you're currently working with and make sure that your website comes up. If you have a common name, so let's say the name of your company is Sales Accelerators Incorporated, there might be other Sales Accelerators Incorporated. You may need to have a strategy to make sure people know the right Sales Incorporated, whatever, that comes up when they type that in. But most of the SEO best practices missing are things like the page titles say home, the about pages say about, and we need some more context because we're all in a world where we're using little pieces of information to make sense. And so do search engines. And now so does AI. So those best practices are often missing. This would be a good example of what someone like they already know that they want Kixie, which is we're a partner with this software company. But Kixie, if I type in like, because I heard of them, this is what pops up. And this is derived from their SEO strategy. And these are the names of their pages. So one exercise you can do right now is type in your brand name. And then 1, make sure your website comes up. But 2, does it come up and say, company name, home, and then this actually doesn't help set the stage. And then I've seen this to be true where all the pages that come up as we'll call site links end up being the wrong pages. And so there needs to be an SEO structure in place. We're not going to go into that specifically, but this is what this looks like when it's good. All right, not addressing pain points. If you're going to be helping your customers, you need to know what their words are and their pain points. People typically are going to alleviate pain far more than they're going to aspire to hope or growth. So pain points are huge. No follow-up strategy for leads. Same sort of thing here. Not everybody who signs up for your newsletter needs a call, but the number of people that actually book a call and it takes 2 days or even like a couple hours to get back to them, people are making decisions very quickly. What is your follow-up strategy? If they get on the newsletter list, is there a segmentation in your CRM to make sure that they get the right information? That's going to be more marketing, but this is huge. You cannot update your website, get more leads, and then have 0 strategy for follow-up. A dated design or a poor user experience. Keep this in mind. This is all relative to your industry. So for example, in banking, you typically find that a lot of the local banks have a little more of a dated experience because if it's too slick and it's too, modern, it might look like one of the big banks and they don't want to look like a big bank. Now, that to be said, if you're in software and your website looks like it was done 10 years ago, that's going to automatically discount your ability to say innovative software solution. If you're in the consulting space and you're not showing specific pictures of the people on your team and they're all stock photos, welcome to the year 2010, you're back there again. So this is really important. If you're looking for ways to judge yourself, do look at the competitors you aspire to be, because they're probably the ones that are doing it ahead of you and you can follow suit. I just talked about this one, not showcasing the people behind the brand. Stock photos are dead. AI is definitely here to stay, but you have to make sure you're not mistaking mistaking AI for real people. Once people find out they're not real people, there's going to be some backlash. No credibility signals is another one that this comes from case studies. How many clients have you helped with XYZ? Do you have awards and certifications? These need to be in all the right places. Gone are the days of the page of testimonials. Those testimonials need to be throughout the site relative to the buying experience. I talked about this one early on. You can't find other content. This happens so often because all of a sudden, oh my God, we have a podcast. And they've never thought, if you don't do anything else, just throw it in the footer of your website because that has to be true. And then too much information is very, very much an issue today. If I told you you could probably cut 50% of the content on your website and you would probably still have the same results, would that scare you? I know for us, we just went through this on our website and we cut blogs that were getting traffic. We cut them, we deleted them. Why? Because they were attracting the wrong type of traffic now for the company that we are. So this is another machine tip you can put in place because if you're spending time with the wrong customers, you're spending time, which also means not getting sales and losing money. And then if you have difficulty or updating or changing the content, if you're in a marketing role and every time you need to do something, it requires some sort of technical prowess, or you can use a drag and drop editor, but it doesn't look like it should. This is what we need to design for in today's world. So critical website mistakes, if this is like every time we have some sort of new message, we have to contact a team, that's going to slow you down, definitely. All right, so the key question out of this section, what mistakes might be hindering your results? So of that whole list, again, I think one, I just noticed in the comments, James mentioned my probability statistics were wrong. Thank you. Thank you, James. 1 in 6, not 1 in 7. What mistakes maybe hindering your business? These don't include basics. So the 15 things that are in this deck, again, that's available after this webinar, we're not talking about site speed. We're not talking about technical setup. We're not talking about your business strategy. Those things have to be solid. If they're not, all the things we talk about here today are probably you're gonna struggle with. So let's move into the goals of your website. So if you are working with your team, even if you're not redesigning, the thing you need to keep in mind is an effective website helps its users achieve their objectives as easily as possible. Now, the thing that's open here is what does it mean to achieve their objectives? So this is going to be probably custom for each company, but the relative boxes that you're going to find yourself in is they're validating a decision. Can they achieve that objective? They're gathering more information to take to a buying committee. Research shows that more and more sales interactions, especially in B2B, are involving anywhere from 4 to 7 people, if not more. They come to your meeting and then they're sharing the information with 6 other people. Can they find what you talked about on your website? They need to understand value relative to price. Even if you don't put a pricing page up, how can you help set the stage for what that costs? Sometimes even just starting at or showing examples of ranges or giving somebody an example of how to request custom pricing. That would be an option too. They want to gain trust. The thing that marketing is, I think the thing that I say more often than not is our marketing, anything, website, digital, we have to gain trust in a world where trust is at an all-time low. So people are looking to gain trust. So every single thing on your site is a little deposit of trust into their piggy bank. And they want to become more familiar with you. So they do want to explore, but the thought of someone sitting and just clicking through pages and pages and pages of your site, that's not happening. They're having these touch points and they're coming back to validate other things because it's their journey. Your website's not their journey, it's their journey, and your website is a key piece of that. So they do want to test before they buy, and this is where lead generation and demos and trials, if your software, to test before you buy when you're in a professional service capacity, they're looking to understand your value, learn from you, educate, solve their problems so that they're ready to then take a next step. So this is a graphic from Perpecta, and this kind of sums up why this is so important. So if your team has not talked about this internally, this has to be a conversation. This is where our website comes in. And I think too often what we think is we just have this website here for the purchase or maybe for comparing vendors, but your website is part of this entire experience. So they're exploring solutions, they're comparing vendors. So even if they can't figure out why you're different, that's mental work that they can't do. We are so stressed with the amount of information we have. If I have to think really hard, I'm not going to do it. So just tell me. So in light of that, you need to have, if you don't have this today, you need to have a statement. The goal of our website is to insert. If you do not have this, you're just going to have you're going to have a lot of ideas and you're still going to be in that place of feeling like you're treading water because you're not getting the leads that you want. If the goal of your website is lead generation, then back it up and say, how we do that is, and this is one of the things, like we could do a whole masterclass on just this process. This I grabbed from Touchpoint. They're a software company. But what happens is we think this is what we want. So we want leads. We want leads on our website. But what we fail to do is we fail to account how leads come from these areas. So if I want leads on my website, how well are you doing at actually setting up the journey from awareness to consideration to get them to want to do a lead conversion with you? And by lead conversion, this would be like they are raising their hand as an active deal and they're ready to talk to you. And these two, they're trying to figure out their needs. So to use this specific cognitive state, a need is recognized and they're exploring solutions to realize that, X software or X service can help them with that. They're overwhelmed but engaged. Again, overwhelmed being the key thing here. So I know, Nick, you just put a question in the chat. We'll address that real quick from software versus product companies. But this buyer journey template, like if you don't have this, this is probably one of the first things that after this website webinar here, just sit down and sketch out what you know, because this is going to be important in mapping out your website strategy. So what is the goal of my website? You need a primary goal and a secondary goal. So here's where we'll go into product versus service company. So if you're a service company, the goal of your website needs to be to validate what you have been told in sales meetings. So if someone says, you need to do X, Y, and Z, these are the recommendations. They're most likely going to go and find, okay, who else on your website has done that? Have they had a good experience? What are they talking about? In a meeting, I didn't want to say that I'm stupid or I don't want to feel stupid. So when they said, you need a buyer journey map, they went and Googled that afterward. If you have content on your site that you can just easily point them to, you can keep that conversation going and keep them in your environment without sending them off to another place to go figure that out. So a primary goal. Secondary goals might be, okay, our secondary goal is to make sure that we drive webinar registrations. And why do we want webinar registrations? Because we want leads. Why do we want leads? Because again, so you kind of back up and say the whys. How will you know that these primary goals and secondary goals are being achieved? Again, the reason I'm harping on this so much is everybody says they want lead gen, but they haven't thought about the goal and the journey of their website and what actually a lead looks like for your business. And then ask the 5 whys. So for us, one of the things that our website does, we have a strong presence on YouTube. That is one of our marketing strategies. So when you get to our website, one of the things that you should do, the goal of our site is to validate the expertise that we talked about on YouTube so that you are compelled to say, you know what, I might need these guys' help. Or if I don't need their help, they just seem to have much more insight about this specific scenario than anybody else I followed. I'm going to join their newsletter. And then our goal is with the newsletter, continue to introduce them to new content. So as you can see, like we're thinking about the journey and the site becomes a tool as opposed to here's the site. How do I get it out to everybody? So we have to reverse our thinking and think about it in that way. And then what are your front end offers? So for us, like I mentioned, we've got an email newsletter that is one of our biggest front end offers. If you don't have a front end offer, this is probably one of the things that is struggling. If your front end offer is just book a call or join our randomly vague sign up email newsletter that we send monthly, that we say we send monthly and send every 5 months, like those things kill all of your trust, everybody. I know it sounds like I'm saying it over and over again, but consistency wins. All right, so let's dig into the website elements. And this, if you haven't figured out, we don't have any mistakes necessarily, but we're redesigning. How should we think about this? This is where we should go. All right. Website elements come down to 3 core areas: pages, trust proof points, and calls to action. Now, what this looks like, the reason I put it in these buckets is we used to be in an environment where websites were flashy and clever and cool. And I don't know if anyone ever designed a site with Flash. Like that was fun. And then we got to a point where nobody supported Flash, and there's still sites out there that I can't believe that do that. What people expect now is a modern experience. And since we all navigate the web, there's no longer any, like, you can't be more clever than the next person. You have to be more clear. So what we live in is a world that's more like this, where we all know how to drive on the road because we've been trained how to drive with the signs and their colors and what they mean. So if all of a sudden one company decided they were going to make their tourist signs pink, we wouldn't know what to do with that because we live in a world where tourist signs are brown. And if a stop sign was suddenly yellow, we wouldn't stop. We would yield because that's what yellow means. And this is a very specific framework I want you to think about because this is how the World Wide Web now works. And yes, I use the three W's. I feel like I haven't said that for like 15 years. But this is how the world works. People expect a very specific thing. They go to Amazon, they have a one-click experience. It's so easy. And we haven't created that ease in the rest of our businesses too. So when we're designing a website, this is an example. Like this is pretty much what people expect from a service website. Home, about, what do you do? What are your services? What are your prices? Do you have a resource library? What's the call to action? Contact. This is pretty common. If you don't have a what our approach is, you might benefit by adding that in because that helps you with differentiation. If you have webinars and you bury them under, contact, people don't go looking for them there. So spend some time, go through some very popular sites. People are just used to like this. These are our road signs, and this is how people drive down the highway of the internet and your website. Make sure they know what exits go to where. Otherwise, unlike in our world where you can't just drive off the road, people just bounce. It'd be like if you don't see the exit, you just disappear. Like that's what happens on your website is they just bounce. Now, if you can't figure out where to put it, the footer is the other place that needs to go. So again, we are right now focusing 100% on website elements to give people what they need to take the action that you want them to take. Too many times the website footer, we're actually redesigning our site now. And so we've got a whole bunch of things that are missing from our site that are going to go in the footer because it doesn't make sense on the main nav, but if someone's looking for HubSpot hacks, they're going to find it in the footer. Yes, it'll be in our resource library, but if they just want to find that key phrase, it's going to be in our footer. So this is an example from HubSpot, but go to any really good big software company, any really good large like McKinsey or Bain Insights, they're going to have a footer like this. And you can find that you can just probably mimic their practices here in the footer. And so the reason, again, we're doing this is if they can't find what they're looking for, they're going to bounce. So the questions your visitors are asking that you need to take into account are things like, who are you? What do you do? Why does that matter to me? How are you different? And what should I do as a next step as a result of this experience? Your entire website strategy could be summed up to this slide. Who are you? What do you do? Why does that matter to me? How are you different? And what should I do as a next step? Now, notice that it doesn't say who we are, how we're amazing, how we can change the world. Too many times it's written in the we, and you need to come back to you, that you language. So questions you should ask yourself or your team are, how do clients and customers describe our product or service? This is a flash from the past, but the website I was working on a long time ago, they were talking a lot about, at the time, leadership development, and it wasn't a term that the industry was used to at that time. Everyone looked for leadership training. So when people didn't find that they offered training, they bounced. In our case, nobody really offers a very specific thing on, let's say we're going to do Google optimization for local businesses. Okay, that's true. That's what people ask for. But literally, the phrase they're looking for is, how do I show up on Google when someone searches for plumbing in Lincoln? That's the way a customer asks that question, right? So you have to talk in that manner. What would they type into Google? This one's like, I love this question. If you ask your customers in just meetings, say, you know what would you type into Google to find our business? It's shocking the way people look for you. I asked this for us, and some of our clients have said things like, HubSpot people from YouTube. Okay, that's interesting. Like, I never thought about creating a page that is optimized for HubSpot people for YouTube. They've also talked about looking for HubSpot training, which is one that Alexis mentioned is we're certified trainers. They mentioned looking for HubSpot development for a specific industry. Again, getting context of all of that informs how your website can then better serve that need and convert them. But this is often missing from a strategy. What makes sense to them? And then what other information are they reviewing or taking in? So what other places are going to validate their information? So this might be, for instance, like in the IT industry, there might be a need for them to go to a third-party site like Clutch to go validate that that's true. So on your main website, you need to have, we are a Clutch member. Here's a link to all of our testimonials and case studies. That might need to be part of your experience. And then what do they need to know before taking a next step? So this is going to be different for everybody. It might be pricing, it might be time. What do they expect to know? And how do they not feel stupid for asking that question? Because there's questions back here. And if we don't enter that conversation in their mind already, they might not even ask it. So don't assume one path. This is an example of that I run through with clients all the time where we think our homepage is the place that people always go to. And that's only true in certain cases. So I'm going to give you an example. If on this call today or on this webinar, you said, oh, I went to this great webinar with Simple Strat or Ali Schwanke, you might just Google Ali Schwanke because that's the only thing you remember. And depending on what comes up, they get to the website. So you might get to the page about Ali Schwanke on our website. You might get to the homepage. You might get to a podcast that I was on. How that all manifests itself is part, like, that's what we have to plan for. You might also get Simple Strat. Someone says like a referral, they say, go ahead and check out Ali Schwanke HubSpot company. And that's how they get to the website. And then you might have, I saw Tyler post something on social media. So I went over from LinkedIn. People are getting little bits of information about you and your products and your service everywhere. And how they come to your site, the main people that see your homepage are going to be referrals and someone that looks you up as a result of something else. Saw a booth at a trade show. Who is that company? Search. Alexis, you should talk to Simple Strat. Who is Simple Strat? Again, like your homepage often will validate what someone else said. So think about it this way. If someone says, hey, Alexis, you should work with Simple Strat because they are HubSpot nerds. Like they know everything about HubSpot. And you go to our homepage and you can't find anything about our expertise in HubSpot anywhere. We just talk about supercharging sales and doing amazing things with funnels. That's not going to help you. So your homepage should validate what they've been hearing or saying. If it doesn't, then they're quickly going to look at your navigation to see if they can find that next thing too. And if you go more than 2 clicks deep, you're going to be struggling. Now, the way that this also manifests itself is in these pages here, and they might have heard about you on a podcast, which then takes into a blog page, which then they find the blog helpful, and they go looking for like, oh, who is this company behind this blog? What do they do? There is no clear path, but I want you to think about in your website strategy, because you have to talk about this with your team. What are all the different ways someone comes to experience your company? And then come up with the 5 most common paths and optimize for that. So for us, one of our most common paths, we know this, is YouTube. So we've optimized our path for the conversion from that channel, and we've spent 3 years doing it. Were we really good at it at first? No. Did we learn every time we iterated? Absolutely. Now are we getting people calling and booking directly? Absolutely. So in the absence of a story, people make up their own story. This is a key thing to think about, because if someone can't find information about something, they make up their own or they go searching. I was looking to buy a software tool a couple weeks ago, and I went to their site to look for pricing, no pricing. So then what do? What every consumer does. Google company name and the word pricing. And I'm looking for any public blog, G2 rating, some numbskull on Reddit probably talked about it. Like, I am at the mercy of whatever someone else said online. So when they Google, I love cats, had to use a cat in this presentation, what will they find? And I'm going to tell you, if they Google your name and let's say that they're looking for company XYZ product versus company ABC products, if there is a competitor page or a comparison page that your competitor put up, you're going to be forced to have to listen to their story instead of yours. So back to that path, what are they doing and how does that then shake out for you? All right, so kind of gave away a little bit of the farm here on the first one, which is number 1, practical tip, map out your journey. Map this out. Take about 5 to 10 recent customers and back your way through how they found out about your business. It might mean that you're missing opportunities to convert people. It might also mean that you didn't even realize they were part of, let me take a step back. The things people do but don't tell us is the most exciting and scary part of marketing. And I will tell you that this happens a lot on social media where someone will say, I saw your post about X and I registered for it. Or I've been watching your videos forever, but they've never subscribed to our channel. They've never clicked like on the post, and they've been to our site multiple times and they can't actually show that they converted because they never signed up for anything, but they just know they always go there when they see our stuff. So map out the journey. If you have a conversion funnel right now, or if you have even just an opportunity to convert, how do they get to your business? If you're doing a podcast, if someone listens to the podcast and then tries to validate what they heard, is that congruent? And is there a next step they can take? Always, 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 the next steps are the places that you can find your machines. Number 2, this is probably, well, I said that a lot about a lot of stuff. This is one of the things you should do. supporting your sales team is the biggest opportunity for most B2B companies. And the reason for that is my dog decided she wanted to add some notes about that. But the biggest thing about supporting your sales team is when you're on a sales call, someone says, "Can you send me something about that?" Think about how this currently gets answered in your company. Is the word no? Or I'll think of something and then your sales team whips something together? Or are you sending a PDF attached to an email? Which again, that's fine, but why not send them to your website where they have a chance to explore and like do more of that discovery the entire time? Do you have an example of X? What can I expect? Even if your sales team is not getting these questions on your calls, I guarantee you, your prospect is asking them back in their mind, and we call them the silent objections. So the silent objections are things like, okay, I don't want to look stupid for asking this, but like, who else have you worked with? Some people are cool asking that, some aren't. So they just go to your case studies and look for that after they're off the call. What can I expect? This one's huge. If they're interested in the service, but they can't really figure out what the next step is, again, some people ask, some don't. So having a page on your site that says what to expect with service XYZ or the first 30 days, or especially when you're selling invisible things like services, this one's really huge. So supporting your sales team, getting more out of your sales meetings already is the biggest lift most likely you can make as a B2B company when it comes to optimizing website experience. This is probably the capturing perceived need versus actual need. This would be where you can pull the lever of lead generation. And this is because customers and clients often don't know their root cause. If anybody has done any studying in like root cause identification, people are actually pretty terrible at linking their symptoms to their root causes. And we as clients of larger companies, we will go on our own path to discover what we think our problem is and how to solve it. And this, we constantly are meandering around to figure out how to solve and take the pain away of whatever the symptom is. If we don't have any leads, a lot of times the first thing I hear is we need to hire a lead gen company because it seems like we need leads. They say they'll get us some. Woohoo! Problem solved. I don't know about you guys, but the number of companies that I've heard of having a not so good experience there outweighs the ones that had good experiences. And it's probably because some of these things here, we haven't mapped out the entire strategy. Lead magnets and conversions that help them activate on their perceived needs. So even if someone says, and I'm going to give you an example in our case, if someone is looking to get more out of HubSpot and they think, you know what, we just need to hire someone. We need to figure it out. Well, 6 months into that role, maybe that person doesn't have the skills they need. And so our perceived need or their perceived need was they needed someone. The actual need is they don't have the insight or the know-how. So a lead magnet here would be, we have 17 ways your HubSpot's broken and how to fix it. Here's a guide that can help you. That would be a lead generation opportunity. So that's going to be how to capture their perceived need versus actual need. If there's like a whole exercise you can go through to do this, but this would be definitely a lead generation lift for you. Make the bottom of funnel, that's what BOFU stands for, bottom of your funnel, clear. And that is, how do they take that action? Like I call it they're waving their credit card and they're ready to buy and they can't figure out how to do it. And by ready to buy, it might not mean I want to necessarily like transact like a B2C or where you would check out to buy a shirt, for example. But I've been in situations myself where I'm ready, like I know everything I want, everything about this software. I'm ready to buy it today. And I have to book a demo to talk to this person, talk to this other person, and then do this thing. Or from a service perspective, like, okay, now I got to wait for like 6 weeks until they're ready to meet with me, whatever. Make it clear on what to expect. If you're booked out for 6 weeks, then make that to be true on your website. Like, hey, we're actually booking out 2 months. You know, that also sets the stage for FOMO, but contact us and buy now are not the same thing. I'm not saying you need to buy now, but free consultations, book a call, schedule, talk to us. Those are all ways to do a specific bottom of funnel action. And then number 5, this one is that kind of like subtle experience, but make it easy to update your platforms, make it easier for marketers to spin up a page about something. The best sales and marketing teams work together to say, hey, I heard this objection in a call the other day. Can we just kind of like watch that to see if it comes up more often? Oh, you know what? It came up 3 more times. Let's go ahead and put a page together or something together about this to educate our customers and use that in our sales and marketing process. If that's the case, it can't take 3 months or even 60 days, or even I'll argue 3 weeks to put that up. People are moving fast. They need it quickly. So let's make that easy. And then tie this into a CRM. So we've got a variety of forms on our site that when you fill them out, so if you're asking to get a backlink from us, for example, we've got it set up on our CRM so that actually it doesn't come in as a lead. It gets filtered out. Our team's not spending time following up on that. And it's noticed as we don't accept backlink requests from any companies. So we just delete that. So you're going to be able to save time. So your site, again, should be working harder for you if you're taking the time to actually qualify with the CRM connected. And that's a much longer conversation. So real quick, we're going to run through, have that right mindset. So I want you going out today thinking our website needs to be a machine, a simple machine, probably at first, building toward a complex machine. I want to feel that my site is producing action. Right now, the feelings are, I don't know if our site, like based on all the things we said, I don't even know where to start. Okay, one action you could take would be that free website audit. Again, we'll put that up here at the end. Two quick plugs until we can move to Q&A. And we have two more webinars coming up here, one next week about using AI to uncover customer pains. This is something we've been using in our business. The things people say and actually what they infer are sometimes two different things. We're using AI to uncover some of that, build content strategy, marketing strategy, and sales collateral. So we'll show you how to do that in that webinar. And then if you are a HubSpot user, Tyler does a wonderful, like highly acclaimed, like we've gotten tons and tons of people talking about it here every month to talk about the latest updates in HubSpot and how you can put those to work. So I'll leave this on the screen while we move into Q&A in case you want to take advantage of that website audit, but we'll then move it back to Alexis for Q&A.